Hi, it's Scott ROCKFILE, back for another podcast review for your ears. Let's talk about the 2024 Korean film, Exhuma. The literal meaning is exhuming and relocation of a grave. Exhuma. This was a whole different kind of movie. I expected a typical kind of Korean ghost story kind of movie, and it's more than that. I should have known that. The movie has grossed $97 million so far, making it the highest grossing South Korean film of the year and the sixth highest grossing South Korean film of all time. Jang Jae-hyun directed it. Not real familiar, also wrote the screenplay. I do know, though, Choi Min-sik, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. I'm terrible with Korean names. He was the star of Old Boy. So a lot of people are familiar with him. The movie is basically a group of people who are good at this shamanistic kind of thing. They each have their own roles. They come to help a family who's kind of being haunted by a grave type situation. And that's what Exhuma is about. The film includes mystery and occult elements and follows the process of excavating an ominous grave, which unleashes dreadful consequences buried underneath. That's the official explanation. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes of mostly Korean language, although part of the movie takes place in the U.S. And there's a weird scene that takes place in Korea with two Korean people speaking English. That was just kind of random. I don't know. I don't know why they were speaking English for that particular scene and went right back into Korean. Weird. There was also some very weird things that I won't get into spoiler territory when it deals with the shamanistic and some of the more spiritual aspects of what goes on in this film. Like I said, I expected kind of your typical ghost story. They mess with a grave and then a ghost haunts them and that kind of stuff. That is not what happens. And I was thrilled that that is how it works out. The cinematography is fabulous. This was a 4K. I pre-ordered because the price on Grov.com was so cheap I couldn't believe it was a 4K. Now, it doesn't come with a Blu-ray, so that may be one of the reasons why it was so cheap. It did come with a slip cover for those that are into that. But it is a really nice 4K. The movie looks fabulous. It's got Dolby Vision HDR. There's some great scenes of fire and neon lights and things that really show off the HDR colors, and there's a lot of also dreary stuff because it takes place in a forest on a cloudy day and that kind of stuff. It kind of runs the whole gamut. And where I think the HDR really helps with the 4K disc is the darkness. There's a lot of dark scenes, a lot of scenes at night, and you can clearly see everything that's going on most of the time. That's really great, and one of the benefits of having nice TV, nice 4K, and a nice HDR picture. The Dolby Atmos surround sound was incredible. It's one of the best, probably the best foreign film I've ever heard in Dolby Atmos, and those are pretty few and far between, I will admit. But there are some amazing effects, not just of like there's some swirling fire and wind effects that you hear above you and beside you and around you. But there are also some other supernatural things that happen in the surround sound channels that blew me away. Voices and such. It was like, wow, this is how you use Dolby Atmos. It was really a fun experience. I'm not sure that the movie had to be 2 hours and 15 minutes long, but honestly, because it kind of does a pivot an hour to an hour 15 minutes in, you're kind of getting two movies, if that makes any sense. A story becomes something bigger and more involved than what you find from the beginning as the movie. And like I said, I'm not going to get into spoilers. I love how the director introduces the characters. They start with some voiceovers. Hey, I'm this, and I'm a shaman, and I do this, and this is what we do. And then they show her, and you get that, and then they introduce another character. So these few people on this quote unquote team, they get introductions, almost like it's a superhero movie or a TV show where you're meeting the main characters, right? But that's a brief thing, and it's not a major part of the film. It's just kind of lets you know that all these people kind of have their jobs to do when these kind of supernatural thing. It's kind of a, realistic take on the X-Files in modern times in Korea. Anyway. So this team goes to help this family. They deduce what's causing problems within multiple people in the family. This is just not one person getting haunted or possessed or anything like that. And like I said, from there, the movie goes into uncharted territory that I wasn't expecting, and that kept me intrigued through the whole thing. One thing that I really enjoyed through the entire movie is just the acting is top-notch throughout. There was nothing in here that didn't feel like this is a top-notch film, no matter what country it came from. Like, everybody's a great actor in the film. Everybody does a great job with their roles, their characters. They inhabit them. They disappear into them. Now, granted, half of them I've never seen before, but a few of them I have. And they're different characters than they were in previous movies. It's a good story. I wouldn't say it's a horror movie, more of a supernatural thriller, if you will. It does have some scary stuff, does have some gory stuff. I was surprised that there was some pretty over-the-top gory scenes. Not a lot, but enough to keep you going if you're into that sort of thing. This would not be my typical Halloween fare, but when I'm in the mood for something dark and supernatural, this would definitely fit the bill. Like I said, it's also one you'd want to see again, because once it does the pivot and the rest of it kind of happens, I don't want to say too fast, but fast enough that you're kind of breathless with everything that goes on beyond where you knew where this movie was headed. A little shocked at how kind of not so much action-packed, but I also watched the first Mission Impossible movie over this weekend, and the two movies do something similar in the final third of the movie. They structure it in such a way that it makes it much more exciting if somebody had just filmed it. Like, the directors knew what they were doing to increase the tension, to increase the anxiety-inducing events that were happening in the final parts of the film. In both of those movies, Brian De Palma does a great job in Mission Impossible 1, and this guy does a great job in Exhuma. It becomes even more of a bit of a thrill ride. And I thought it's well done from beginning to end. It has a nice ending that leaves you on a happy note. And I will guarantee you we're probably going to get a sequel, if not more. This movie made a lot of money for Korean audiences. 97 million US is a huge windfall for them. And why would they not? These were all popular characters. Anybody who survived should go on to the next movie, because you could do anything supernatural with the next movie in this group of characters. I really liked it. It might not wind up in my top 10 of the year, but it is one of the better movies I've seen this year. Supernatural, I'll call it thriller. Some people call it horror movie. Supernatural thriller Exhuma is available on certain streaming services, and it's now available in 4K and Blu-ray if you're so inclined. Like I said, it's worth it for the Dolby Atmos soundtrack above all. The picture was great in 4K. The HDR was well done, but the soundtrack, amazing. Not just the music, not just music cues, not just supernatural sound effects. All that stuff was great, but there's a lot of other stuff that goes on in the Dolby Atmos channels it's pretty spectacular, actually. This will wind up on one of my recommendations at the end of the year for pure sound for those that can, decode a Dolby Atmos soundtrack with any authority, if you will. Exhuma, it's available now. It's a 2024 Korean film. It is subtitled throughout the film, but I thought it was well done. The subtitles were accurate, especially where they spoke English. So all in all, this was a win of a cheap, I've never seen this movie or know much about it. Let's give it a shot. I specifically didn't watch trailers or learn much about it before I saw it. And I think having that bar set so low, not knowing anything, just expecting a ghost story and getting so much more, is why I really liked it. Sometimes that is what we need in a movie, right? To go in as cold as possible and let it do its magic. And there's some magic in this movie that I wasn't expecting. So check out Exhuma if you're so inclined. I'm Scott. I'm ROCKFILE. If you want to support the channel, the links are below. Have a spectacular day, and thanks for listening.